What's up, guys? Rob from Japan Gaming here, bringing you the long-awaited Candyland character tier list. And I know this is going to be a fun video to do. Of course, keep in mind this is the pre-2003 patch for the game, so that's the current patch that we play on. And yeah, so this is going to be a fun video. I know it's going to be pretty controversial. I'm expecting a lot of hot takes regarding some of the placements for some of the characters that I'm going to be giving out here today. So I expect a lot of comments, a lot of discussion, because a lot of it might not be exactly what you would expect from a Candyland tier list at this point in the meta. But either way, I think I have some good points, and we're going to jump right into it. So, of course, we're going to start with the non-playable characters, the NPCs. We'll start with Lord Licorice. He's going in D tier. I mean, he doesn't really bring a whole lot to the game. He's just kind of there to be annoying. Luckily, he's early enough on in the board here that he's not that much of a hindrance or a nuisance, but he doesn't really bring anything to the game. There's not much around him that he directly impacts, and so he's a very low tier character. He's kind of just there to be there most of the time and not actually do a whole lot. So Lord Licorice D tier, he kind of just exists, right? He's not really there to do a whole lot. Gloppy, we're going to put Gloppy in B tier. He actually has some pretty material effects on the way that the game plays out. I mean, if you look, up in Gloppy's swamp, he has the space that's going to get you stuck, which is very close to the end of the game. And so, of course, if you're getting pretty close, to winning the round, he can come in and just kind of dick you over right at the end. And we've seen it before where Gloppy has caused some come from behind clutches that maybe should not have happened otherwise without his interference in the game. He's kind of an asshole, but he is there to impact the game in a meaningful way, and he does so more often than you would think with just one stuck space available to him. So we're going to put him in B tier because he actually does stuff that changes the way the game plays. Up next, we're going to go with the kids. The kids are going to put in A tier, of course, being the main playable characters of the game. They have a very high impact on the results. We all know that Red Kid is, of course, the current favorite in the meta. They replaced the two alpha patch playable characters, which is nice. We know that Red Kid is the current meta. However, I think there's a really, really good argument to be made that Yellow Kid could perhaps be a sleeper pick in terms of, power creep. He's kind of getting up there now. We're seeing a couple big wins from Yellow Kid mains, and so it's nice to see a little bit more diversity in the game. But, of course, this has a very high impact on your chances of winning if you can get lucky and draw into being able to pick Red Kid, since we don't have mirror matches in the game, which, maybe that'll come at a later patch with a different shade of red and yellow, green and blue. But overall character design, pretty snazzy, little gingerbread kids. I like the character design. I like what the devs did with them, and that's why we're going to stick them in A tier. And last but not least, King Kandy. We're going to put him in C tier. Of course, these tiers are going to be ordered when I have more characters in the different tiers, but I would put him at the low end of C tier. He is, of course, the main objective of the game is getting to the Candy Castle. But, I mean, when you really look at the guy, he's not all that enticing of an end goal. I mean, when you think about characters that make you want to get to your destination, in the lore of a lot of these games, Princess Peach, Zelda, King Candy, not really much of an end goal here. He's kind of a little weird looking. He's got cotton candy for hair and a mustache, and his staff is a pie or cupcake, depending on which version of the game you're playing. Listen, I'm not getting out of bed to get to this guy's castle. That's all I'm saying. And so we're going to put him at C tier. He's above Lord Licorice because Lord Licorice is just a jackass who kind of just exists in the game more so than King Candy. At least King Candy's bringing a little bit of a castle to the game, whereas Lord Licorice kind of just stands there and points at his Licorice castle. And we all know Licorice is not as good as cupcakes and ice cream, so I don't think this is too controversial. Maybe it is. I know some people have Lord Licorice above King Candy, but I don't know. I feel like King Candy's bringing more to the table here. All right, so we're going to move on to the characters that are kind of in play at this point. This is where the tier list is going to get a little bit controversial, I think. And, of course, actually, this is going to make us add a row above S because we all know where this is going. There is one character that is actually just broken. As I adjust my tiers down here, we all know the single best character in the game is Queen Frostine. I mean, when you look at the power rankings, and let me actually go over this real quick for those of you who maybe aren't so familiar with how we rate characters PR or the power rating in this game. So there are 134 spaces on the board. So we take a number, your max positive. So for example, for Queen Frostine, her max positive, she is on space 104. So if you draw into her frame 1, you are plus 104. And the max negative number is actually 133, because if you're on space 134, you've won the game. So 133 minus their position. So if you're on space 133 and you draw into this card, how many spaces max are you going to go back? And for Queen Frostine, you're only going to be at most minus 29. And so we take those two numbers, we do your max positive subtracting your max negative, and you divide that by the total number of spaces. So the highest possible power rating for a card would theoretically be 1, because it would be 134 max positive, 0 max negative divided by 134 would be 1, and the same goes for your max negative. So the closer you are to 1 on your power rating, the better of a card you are. The closer you are to -1, the worse of a card you are. Queen Frostine is by far the highest in the game at 0.56 of a power rating. I mean, your max negative drawing into this card frame 1, or your max negative drawing into this card at space 133 is 29, which is absolutely nothing. That that amount of negative can be erased rather quickly. And I mean, a max positive of 104. If you frame 1, draw this card, the game is over. Unless, there are other cards that can kind of reverse that. There's some powerful reversals in the game, which we'll get into. But I mean, yeah, your average gain. So on average, when you're drawing this card, you're going to be gaining an average of almost 38 spaces, which is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, clearly Queen Frostine is broken. The devs actually need to do something about this, but I don't think they will, because there are powerful counters to Queen Frostine. It just is, something that sucks, because you're kind of relying on a couple of strong counters, whereas again, if you frame 1, draw this, you basically win the game. So yeah, Queen Frostine's actually broken, and I don't think that's all that controversial saying. Up next on the tier list, we have Princess Lolly. She's low-key almost as good as Queen Frostine. I almost put them in the same tier. I mean, your max positive on Princess Lolly is 96. Your max negative is 37, so her power rating is 0.44, as opposed to Queen Frostine's 0.56. On average, if you're drawing into this card, you're going to be gaining a total of almost 30 spaces. I almost put them in the same tier. I couldn't do that in good faith, given just how strong Queen Frostine really is. And, when you take a look at the game board, if you draw into Princess Lolly, you're not that far behind. But the other thing about Queen Frostine that makes her just a little bit more broken is that, you're drawing into her at a max negative of 29, And I just think that she's in her own tier, which is how strong she is. Because you can kind of come back from a Princess Lolly draw early. Queen Frostine, if your opponent draws early, is pretty much GG. Shake hands and go next. So, maybe this is a bit controversial. I know some people do have them in the same tier. I almost did. I just think Queen Frostine actually needs a nerf, whereas Princess Lolly, I think, is in an okay place. An average gain of 30 as opposed to an average gain of 38 is, that's a significant difference. And not to mention that, the spaces in between, you've got 2 purple, right? So if you draw a double purple off of Princess Lolly, you're pretty much caught up to Queen Frostine, but not quite caught up to Queen Frostine. So that's another reason. You can draw a double and still not catch up, which is one of the reasons why I think Queen Frostine is in her own tier here. So we will, that's what we'll do with that. So Princess Lolly in her own tier at S tier. Up next, we got Gramma Nutt. Now, Gramma Nutt, some people might argue is S tier, but I don't really see it. I do think that she's better than the kids, specifically because she is more consistent. You're going to get more consistent results when drawing into this card than you are with playing the kids. Max positive 75, a max negative 58. So she's kind of in the middle of the board. You're not really going to be winning games off of a Gramma Nutt draw. You probably won't be losing games off of a Gramma Nutt draw either. Her power rating is pretty close to net neutral. She's a 0.13. Her average gain of 9 spaces on Gramma Nutt. The only unfortunate thing about Gramma Nutt is that she does put you directly in contention with a blue stop space. So if you draw a double blue off a Gramma Nutt draw, unfortunately, you are going to be stuck. Whereas with Princess Lolly and Queen Frostine, the only one is all the way over here at Gloppy. So it's more consistent to draw into these two than Gramma Nutt. However, that being said, she's not quite as good because if you orange off start, you can basically get to where she is. So she's not quite as powerful as Princess Lolly and Queen Frostine, who bring you all the way over to another bend of the board that you can't quite get to with Gramma Nutt's draw. So I'm going to put her at A. She's pretty close to the middle of the road on the board. Some people might put her in B. I'm going to put her at A because she's still a strong draw. If you draw into her, you're most likely, on average, you're still going to be gaining space, which is not the case for the rest of the characters on this tier list, as we all know. So up next, we have Jolly. And Jolly is firmly in C tier. He is not great. He's a max positive of 43, a max negative of 90. So now we're dipping into the cards that give you negatives. His power rating, negative 0.35. And on average, you're going to be losing about 24 spaces if you draw into Jolly. And the other thing that sucks about Jolly is he's such a jackass that he doesn't even put you in contention with a gumdrop pass play. He puts you past gumdrop pass right in front of a yellow stop space. I mean, the guy just has it out for you for some reason. I'm not really even sure why. He doesn't put you near a gumdrop pass. And so drawing into him almost always sucks because even if you net positive off the rip, you're not gaining that much and you're immediately in contention with a stop space. If you draw him anytime past that, you're probably going to be pretty upset. He's better than King Kandy because he actually materially impacts the game, but not by much. So he is firmly supplanted in the C tier realm of the game. Up next, we have Mr. Mint. And Mr. Mint, yeah, he's C tier. I mean, again, he has a lot of the same issues that Jolly does, except he actually puts you in contention with a gumdrop pass if you triple purple. So you draw into a purple on your third draw. You can gumdrop pass right up to past Jolly, which almost makes me tempted to put Mr. Mint over Jolly, but really the Gumdrop Pass isn't netting you that much of a positive. And again, it sticks you right in front of a yellow stop space. So, I know a lot of people will make the argument, oh, Mr. Mint's better. You get the free, Gumdrop Pass. But is he really? I mean, he's a max positive of 18 and a max negative of 115. His power rating is negative 0.72. You're losing on average 49 spaces drawing into this guy. I mean, I don't get it. I know some people really try to make an argument that Mr. Mint should be here above Jolly. Some people have seen him even put him in B tier, which is just absolutely crazy to me. Clearly, in my opinion, he is worse than Jolly because not only is he behind Jolly, but you have to get RNG into a Gumdrop Pass to stand right in front of a yellow stop space. At least Jolly, his max negative is under 100. I mean, you can lose up to 115 spaces drawing into this guy. So congratulations on having the Gumdrop Pass, Mr. Mint, but you're still a jackass and you still aren't that good at the game. So, yeah, not buying it. Not buying it, Mr. Mint. Clearly C tier. And, of course, we come to the worst, by far, character in the game. He gets his own tier because he just sucks that much. We are officially in Die in a Tire Fire tier with Plumpy. I mean, if you are a Plumpy main, you really need to reconsider just what the hell you're doing with your life. I mean, max positive of 9, max negative of negative 124, a power rating of minus 0.86 with an average loss of 58 spaces drawing into this guy. And to top it all off with him, he puts you in front of the Rainbow Trail. I mean, what a schmuck this guy is. Like, he's actually an unbelievable schmuck when it comes to this game. He puts you, 5 spaces in front of Rainbow Trail, which skips all of this crap on the right side of the board. He literally does nothing. He serves to just screw you over at the worst possible time. And on top of all that, he's smiling and just laughing at your pain. I mean, look at the tree. Look at him. He's so happy to just dick you over. And half the time, if you draw another card, you're going to be way better off than if you would have drawn Plumpy. I mean, you can double blue past him. You can double yellow past him. You can double orange past him. You can double green past him. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors that you can just leap right past Plumpy with. And you're going to be way better off than if you've ever drawn into this guy. I mean, there's no reason to ever play Plumpy. There really isn't. I mean, the only purpose he serves in the game is to just ruin everything you've worked for up to that point in one frame. I mean, he's a frame 1 loss, basically. Anytime really past Jolly, he's a frame 1 loss. And I've seen it happen where people frame 1 into Queen Frostine, frame 2 into Plumpy, and just give up because there's just no coming back from that. And I respect those people for doing that. Plumpy is by far the worst character in the game. We're going to ignore these characters because they're post-patch characters and we don't play with them on the board, so we're going to completely ignore them. Plumpy is by far the worst character in the game, and he's just such an absolute schmuck in every way imaginable. At least if he was frowning as he did it to you, I could say he feels remorse, but he stares into your eyes with a happy smile. And not to mention, plums aren't really even that good. So what's the point? If he was giving me like an apple tree, that I could work with. I could work with some apples. I could work with some, maybe even like, a grape bush or something. But he gives you a thumbs up as he just rips your soul out. And he just sucks. there's no reason for him to exist. So those are my thoughts on tier list. I know, again, maybe a little controversial in some ways, but I sincerely hope that you guys enjoy. Let me know if you have any thoughts in the comment section down below. If there's anything you disagree with, if there's anything you agree with, let me know your thoughts on the Candyland tier list. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Fuck Plumpy, and I'll see you guys next time.